mate, and welcome to Oxygen Not Included with me, Jetty. Today I want to cover geysers, and this is going to be my complete guide to geysers. Might not be the most complete, but you know, it's as complete as I'm ever going to make it. So, what we have in front of us is every single geyser that is available in Oxygen Not Included, and really I've split them into two categories. The top section are the ones that we can sort of live with and just pump out as they are. The bottom set is really generally the hot ones, the ones we're going to have to tame, we're going to have to actually do something with before we can actually harness. So we're going to go through the list of geysers really quickly. This is going to be a two-part video. I'm going to do an introduction to all the geysers and all the cool ones in this video, and then in the next episode, well, in the next video, we're going to cover all the hot ones and how to tame each one of them. Because they're all, you know, there's a couple that duplicate, but they're all a little bit unique. So we're going to go through a cool slash geyser. Now, cool slash geyser is probably the best geyser you're ever going to find on any sort of hot map. They pump out polluted water. As you can see, we're doing 5.7 kilograms. I do have this lovely mod down here that gives me the average output of this particular geyser. It's only 2.17 kilograms. They're all about 2.5 kilograms for a cool slash geyser. And this guy pumps out polluted oxygen at polluted water rather at minus 10 degrees. It is really great for just pumping as is anywhere around your base to cool your base. That is where this geyser excels. Once you've obviously warmed up the polluted water, you can then convert it into clean water and then run it to your oxygen, run it to your plants, do whatever you need to with that water. But when it comes out nice and cold, we can then use that liquid to cool parts of our base. Next one we actually have is a polluted water vent. Pretty much the same story. Doesn't come out as cold, but comes out with fairly cold water. Same story, just pump it around your base. Pump it around your base, use it as active cooling around your base. Next one we actually have is the water geyser and the saltwater geyser. Both these guys, as you can see, have well, the water geyser actually pumps out the most water at 3.5 kilos. Every other geyser is like that 2.5 kilos. I got really lucky with the salt water geyser at 2.8 kilos. But yeah, both these guys pump out basically hot water at 95 degrees Celsius. 95 degrees Celsius is in that tricky area where it's not worth heating up to turn to steam, and it's going to be a little bit of a pain to cool down. So you want to try and use this water as is without having to cool it down too much. If you run it to your oxygen, you are going to, if you run it to your electrolyzers, you will get oxygen at 95 degrees Celsius. It's easier to cool down that oxygen at 95 degrees Celsius, but then again, if you just pump it straight into a atmosuit, the atmosuit and the dupe in the atmosuit doesn't really care that they're getting oxygen at 95 degrees Celsius. Really, the other place you can put it is straight into an oil well. Oil wells, same story. They don't care that water's 95 degrees Celsius. So that's really what I recommend for both these two. Just put a pump down the corner. Make sure it's something a little bit more durable, so it's going to have a little bit higher of an overheat temperature. Away you go. The next one we actually have is the infectious polluted oxygen vent. This bad boy puts out not a lot of polluted oxygen, only 128 grams per second, but it is going to come out full of germs. So that one's a little bit unique. We are going to come and cover, we are going to cover that in just a moment. But yeah, polluted oxygen at 6 degrees, it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's pretty easy to deal with. Harold's pretty happy with after playing with, yeah. Harold had a small incident with this particular geyser. Next one we actually have is a chlorine gas vent. Now, chlorine gas vent, again, comes at 6 degrees Celsius. Again, fairly low output. Chlorine gas is useful for a couple of things. One, to pump over to your pantry, wherever you're storing your food, because it will kill any germs that get on your food. At the same time, it's also whatever food stored in a chlorine atmosphere will be in a sterile environment, so it won't decay. On top of that, if you pump it into, congratulations, nails in leveling up. On top of that, if you pump it into any room where you've got water tanks or even gas tanks, you can clear germs out of those tanks as well. Really, the two other ways you can use chlorine is cooling it, well, feeding it to squeaky puffs to turn into bleach stone to then run into your lettuce farms. This is the only way to get bleach stone, is by having a chlorine gas vent with some squeaky puffs to actually get more bleach stone. The last thing is really for that really, really late game, and I'm not even going to cover it because most people don't bother, but if you go to space, if you get gas grass, you can then you then have to cool down chlorine enough to get liquid chlorine, which you can then pump, which is then required to be pumped as irrigation into your gas grass to feed gassy moos. Like I said, well beyond the scope of this video, not going to be covering that one. But that's really the 4 uses, I guess, for chlorine gas vents. Realistically, if you don't have any use for it, box it up. Make sure you put a gas vent in there just in case you want the gas later. Hook up power, hook up a pipe and everything else, and then forget about it. It's just going to overpressurize to 5 kilograms, same as all these other vents have, except for the carbon dioxide vent. That seems to not really care. So the last one is the carbon dioxide vent. Now, this guy, again, doesn't pump out a lot of carbon dioxide, but it's coming out minus 55 degrees Celsius. Now, if you pump that straight to your slicksters, they're going to be pretty unhappy because it's really cold and they like really hot carbon dioxide. As always, you can, and I do recommend, pumping around your base, like use some of that cool, but carbon dioxide just has such a pathetic thermal conductivity that you're going to spend ages heating it up. Along with not a great heat capacity. Like, oxygen's not great to start with, carbon dioxide's worse. So that is something you need to keep in consideration. So yeah, by all means, pump it around your base, try and get whatever cooling you can out of it, and then dump it down to your slicksters after it's been pre-warmed quite a bit. If you're already dumping it into a warm carbon dioxide environment, it'll heat up fairly quickly, or vent it out to space as cooling for your space equipment. That's really our cool set of geysers. Our hot set of geysers, we have a couple of different categories, and I'm going to cover these like a couple of times. So we have our iron, our copper, and our gold volcano. These are the ouchies ones. As you can see, Marie had a small mix-up with one of these volcanoes because our iron volcano pumps out at 2,500 degrees Celsius. Our copper volcano is only at 2,200. Only at 2,200, he says. And our gold volcano wins the battle at 2,600 degrees Celsius. These pump out some really hot metal. There is the advantage that if you cool this metal down, it can't cool the metal down. It comes out as refined metal. So this is a wonderful way to get refined metal in your base. It does mean you're going to have to cool these liquids down from the excruciating hot temperature they are. It is alright. In the next video, I actually cover a tamer for these guys to be able to get metal out of them, and the good thing is it's self-sufficient as long as that volcano is erupting. Whilst that volcano is erupting, it actually gets you, well, actually nets you power. Next one we actually have is cool steam vent. That one I'm actually going to cover in this video because it's at 110 degrees. It's again a situation where it's not really worth warming it up 15 degrees to then run it through a steam turbine. Well, you could, I guess, if you have some need to have an aqua tuner or something in the same room, you could heat it up a little bit to then use a steam turbine to recover some of that power and cool it and bring the temperature of that steam down to 95 degrees Celsius. But as you can see, these have been in the game for a very long time. These have really been our source of water for about a year now since they were first introduced. We get 1.85 kilograms of water per second out of these guys. They are very, very effective at giving you water, but you are going to have to cool that steam down. Our next one, well, our next few actually, we have a hot polluted oxygen vent, which pumps out polluted oxygen at 500 degrees Celsius. Not a lot of it, but there's enough. Our hydrogen vent, again, 500 degrees Celsius, and again, not a lot of it. And finally, our carbon dioxide vent, again, 500 degrees, not a lot of it. These three guys, basically, you're going to have to cool their output down. Not a lot. You just need to cool it down enough that your pumps can actually deal with it. So the hot polluted oxygen, the hydrogen vent, and the carbon dioxide vent, you need to cool them down to around about 275 degrees, just so we can, be able to get a steel pump into those rooms to then pump them out. The next one we're actually going to have is the natural gas guys. I know I'm jumping over the place a little bit, but this one's actually the easiest of the lot. Being that it's only 150 degrees Celsius, you just need to get to steel. Once you get to steel, whack in a steel gas pump that natural gas straight into your natural gas generators. By all means, if you've got some way to cool it down, along the way, cool it down. But realistically, if it goes in your natural gas generators at 150 degrees Celsius, they max out at they pump out polluted water Sorry about that. They pump out polluted water, and the polluted water can't go that high. I think it maxes out 110 degrees Celsius. So it just means that your natural gas generators are running a little bit warmer. The answer is just cool the area they're in a little bit more aggressively. Next one we actually have is a leaky oil fissure. A leaky oil fissure is probably the most troublesome to actually access because that crude oil is coming out at 300 degrees Celsius. That is going to be too hot to put a steel pump in directly. So again, we're going to have to cool that liquid down. It's also probably the most annoying type of geyser because it actually has an eruption period of 600 seconds every 600 seconds. Basically, it erupts all the time. It never goes dormant. It is a fairly tricky monster to handle. The answer is, as soon as you find out about it, don't touch it, build everything else around it, and then dig the damn thing out. Again, same story. Not a lot of liquid comes out of these guys, but it is continuous. These guys never go dormant. It's sort of a catch-22 whether you want to actually tame these or not. The tamer I've actually got is self-sufficient, so it doesn't actually use any power to tame it. So, you know, maybe not a bad idea. The last ones we have is the second to last, minor volcano and the volcano. Both these guys pump out magma. Now, you would assume magma would be the hottest. Turns out, actually, those liquid metals are way hotter. But again, these guys are just good for free power. That's really all they come down to. We're going to get some free power out of them. The last one is actually the steam vent, which I actually thought would be the most boring. Turns out, depending on how lucky you actually get with your roll, can be very, very effective at providing a lot of free power into your base. Because the steam's coming out 500 degrees Celsius, it is perfectly primed to go straight into your steam vents and give you free power. So that's our cold list. That's our hot list. We're going to cover how to tame really the infectious polluted oxygen vent. That's the only one that we've really got to do any serious work about. And we're also going to do the steam vent at the same time. That's the cool steam vent, not the hot steam vent. So I have an infectious polluted oxygen vent up here, which, as we remember, pumps out. If we go down here, we can see pumps out polluted oxygen full of germs. We have a lot of germs in this area. And what we actually want to do is we want to clean the polluted oxygen into normal oxygen, and we do that with deodorizers. At the same time, we'd like to kill off the germs as best as we can, and that's what I'm achieving here. I do have a lot of germs left over, but, you know, because we're cleaning the polluted oxygen into clean oxygen, of course, the germs are naturally slowly dying off in the oxygen environment. So what I actually have here is a couple of things. So we're going to go to the conveyor overlay first. I have an auto sweeper set up to load a conveyor loader. This is done from the outside. This is 100% duplicate labor free. Basically, this will run forever. And the net output from this is it's going to give us some oxygen, and it's also going to give us some clay, because clay is very important to making ceramics. So we're going to run our filtration medium in on a conveyor loader. We can use sand or we can use regolith. Either is up to you. In my case, I've used sand because that's just what I brought in the debug menu, and I'm bringing it to 2 conveyor receptacles. Now, both these conveyor receptacles can be accessed by these auto sweepers, and as you can see with the sort of star pattern I've made, we can access, this auto sweeper can access all of these deodorizers. It can also access the receptacle. At the same time, it also has a conveyor loader. It can load the clay back out. So what it's going to do is it's just going to shove sand in every single one of these deodorizers to make sure as our polluted oxygen, if we go here, we go gas overlay, as our polluted oxygen comes out, it has to flow past every single one of these deodorizers. So we're guaranteed we're going to have a clean oxygen before it gets to the top, where our gas pump's going to pick it up. We have an atmos sensor here set to 500 grams, just because I don't want the gas pump to actually pull the vacuum. It's just a waste of power, really. And we're just pumping that oxygen out to an overpressurized room. At the same time, as I said, we've got a second conveyor loader here. It's handling, a second auto sweeper here that's handling the top half. And we have 2 conveyor loaders that are just running to a conveyor chute for wherever we'd like our clay. And this has been running for 100 cycles. So in 100 cycles of this infectious polluted oxygen event running, which only ran for 70 of the 100 cycles. I actually managed to end up with 8 tons of clay. And if we actually look at a kiln here, we look at ceramic, we take in 100 kilograms of clay to get 100 kilograms of ceramic. So that's 8 tons of ceramic. That is a lot of ceramic. That is a lot of insulated tiles and insulated pipe. And as for the gas pump, it was just pumping out to this overpressurized room. And I have 600 kilograms per tile. So that's what, 2,400, 4,800, 5 tons of oxygen in 100 cycles. Free oxygen pumped out by this guy. Now, it is still full of germs. They are dying off. They're actually dying off, well, not fast enough. Low what? Low germ count in those areas causing germs to die rapidly. I don't know about that. But, you know, they are dying off reasonably quickly. Yeah, looks like something's bugged here because I've got a half-life of 43 cycles compared to a half-life of 2 cycles. Normally, if we pump that oxygen into either our base or Atmos suits, you'd have to check, okay? In the past, and I don't know if it's been fixed with the launch update, if you pumped oxygen with slime lung into an Atmos suit and a dupe put it on, the dupe didn't actually get slime lung. It might be fixed, but I don't know. But, you know, it is still possible that we could pump that straight into Atmos suits. Realistically, if you pump it anywhere near your base, normally that slime lung is going to hang around for about 5 cycles. So you can pump it out to one corner of your base, the far side of the map, wherever you decide. Just dump it in there and just let it slowly fill your map with oxygen. The last one I actually want to cover in this video is really, it's a steam vent tame up, but it's also a cooler that we're gonna be using quite a bit in the next video. So, let's run through the basics. So we have a thermo aqua tuner here. This guy's actually made out of gold. Why are you out of power? We're just using too much power for 2 hydrogen vents. We'll just do it. So we're just gonna do a quick upgrade to the power. Done. Okay, so we actually have a thermo aqua tuner down here. Now, thermo aqua tuner is basically a heat pump. What it actually does is it puts cooling into the liquid pipes, and then from the liquid pipes, the heat that it takes out of liquid pipes or out of liquid medium, it actually dumps in the surrounding area. So what we actually have here is a thermo aqua tuner, which has an overheat of 175 degrees Celsius. The idea is it's going to heat up this little area here, giving us steam. That steam, when it gets to 125 degrees Celsius, is going to go into our steam turbine, which is then going to burn up that steam, giving us a little bit of free power. Well, free power, we've already spent the power down here to make heat, but yeah, give us a little bit of power back, and at the same time, it's going to convert that steam from 125 degrees Celsius back down to 95 degrees Celsius, and then it's going to dump it back in this room. So that's how our steam turbine and our aqua tuner work. My aqua tuner is actually only made out of gold, so this is something you can get into fairly early in the game. I will tell you there's a couple of tricks. If you're going to make it out of gold, you have to make sure it sits in some sort of liquid to transfer the temperature to. It doesn't transfer it to steam fast enough. So I've actually dumped down just a little bit of oil here at the bottom. You could use oil. You could use... No, you can't use ethanol. That would burn off. Oil, petroleum, they're really the only 2 choices I can think of. Everything else would boil off. But yeah, just a little bit of oil down the bottom. Along with, in the background, I've actually put a temp shift plate. A couple of these, they're only made out of copper ore. They're not really hard to get. They're not really late tech or anything like that. Very, very easy to get your hands on. And the idea of a temp shift plate is... can I have that back? The way a temp shift plate works is if I put it there, it actually interacts with all the tiles around it. So what this temp shift plate and this temp shift plate are doing is they're actually sucking the heat out of the oil and transferring into the steam. And as you can see, this has actually gone idle because I have a liquid pipe thermo sensor right here, checking to see what temperature the water is, because I need it down at 80 degrees Celsius. 80 degrees Celsius is more than enough to make sure this cool steam vent, when it erupts, any steam that comes out of it is going to instantly turn into water and drop down to the bottom. So, the way my plumbing is running, you can use the... How long are you going to take? 0.3 of a cycle. Okay. Alright, let's go on to the pump then. So our pump is hooked up to a hydro sensor. The hydro sensor is set to 500 kilograms because I want some liquid down here to be some thermal mass. I just want a little bit of thermal mass just in case that some of this goes wrong, something breaks here. As long as I have a bunch of liquid down here, it means when that steam erupts, that steam has to interact with all these temp shift plates, which are also touching the water, technically, because as I said, they interact with all the tiles, everything one tile around them, and can move some of the heat from the steam straight into the water. There we go. So we're now emitting steam. I don't really see any steam in the gas, but you can see we're getting the water drop effect because the steam's coming out and it's touching these radiant pipes, which are at 80 degrees Celsius. It's touching the temp shift plates, which have now warmed up to 90 degrees Celsius, and basically converting straight into water, which our liquid pump can pick up. The pump is bringing the liquid out, and I've actually dumped it in here. As you can see, it's going to a little bit of a cheaty method. It's going into a drop of polluted water. Obviously, water sits on top of polluted water, so this will actually eventually overpressurize, and I'll end up with basically infinite water storage in this room. It's something I'm going to cover again in a later video. As for the aquatuner itself, so aquatuner is, again, it's a fairly easy setup. We have our thermosensor on the intake. Thermosensor set to whatever temperature you want. I've chosen 80 degrees because I do need to keep that steam turbine below 100 degrees Celsius. As you can see, it's sitting here quite happily at 95 degrees Celsius, and I'm running water through at 82, 80-ish. If I had that in a gas of hydrogen or something, it would transfer temperature a little bit better, and I might be able to get it a little bit cooler. But as long as that steam turbine stays under 100 degrees Celsius, I'm fine. So my thermosensor is checking the temperature of the water on the way in, and it's just telling this telling the thermo aquatuner to turn on and off depending on what temperature that water is. I do want to make sure that that water stays reasonably cold or cool, but I don't want to be running the aquatuner all the time, because if I was, it would eventually overheat and blow itself up. As for the water pipes themselves, we're bringing the water in. As you can see, we're passing through that sensor and then into the machine. If the machine is turned off for that time, we move from this point onto this liquid bridge, and it jumps over to this output. And the reason I've actually done that is the output of the aquatuner is also running down here and running through our little loop of cooling. Again, I'm using radiant pipes. They're just made out of copper. We're not using anything exquisite in this build. And then finally running back up here and just running over the steam turbine just a little bit to provide that cooling. I do have it's what I call a refill. A refill pipe, a refill connector. It's just a liquid bridge coming from the output of the steam turbine into here. It's because generally I only put a little bit of liquid into this system, and then that bridge is going to convert some of the steam that I've put in this room into actual liquid, which is then going to run into the aquatuner and complete this loop out. So this is how we're taming the cool steam vent. As you can see, we're getting a good amount of water out of it, which we're then, we're getting a good amount of steam out of it, which we're converting to water. We are recovering some of our power, but this is definitely going to be a power negative situation. So that is it for the first video. We've covered really how to deal with all the cool ones. It's literally put down a pump for the first 4, pump the liquid out. First 2 for cooling, second 2 anywhere where you can accept hot water or cool it a little bit first. The infectious polluted oxygen vent is really used to make you a buttload of clay, a real buttload worth of clay. And chlorine gas is just used for basically killing germs, killing lots and lots of germs, or later in the game you might find some other uses for it. Finally, we have the carbon dioxide vent. Again, it can be used for cooling before either venting it to space to keep something cool in space, or just running it down to a warmer carbon dioxide environment for slicksters to chew on to give you some oil. Anyway, that's going to be it for the first video. In the next video, we're going to be covering all our hot friends down here, because we have some very, very hot friends down here, but they are very, very tasty. It can give us a lot of power and other natural resources. So that's going to be it for this video. As always, if you like the video, click the like button. If you want to share it with your friends, I'd appreciate it. So would the lovely YouTube algorithm. Same goes for any comments. If you've got any comments or any questions, by all means down the bottom, or you can go in the description and join our Discord group. We have a lot of discussion about Oxygen Not Included, along with, I take suggestions as to what I should cover next. On the list of things I should be covering next, I am going to be starting a series probably in the next couple of days. At the moment, we're looking at Rime, because I like a challenge. I like a bit of a cold planet. Lastly, if you want to click the subscribe button, I would very much appreciate it as well. It also means you get a notification in a couple of days when the second half of this video comes out, covering all our hot friends down here. Anyway, that's going to be it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.